Hello, hello, and welcome to Wicked Journals. Today we are going to do a junk journal project with one-sided scrapbook paper, okay? So, this is what I do when I'm working out projects, and so I have this little idea book that I draw and put measurements and all kinds of things, and then I have a prototype. And on the prototype, I put the pages that the project is on in my idea book. So I don't know why I'm telling you that, but that's how I do it. Okay, so let's just do a little flip through on this. There are no embellishments or decorations other than the one-sided paper that I used to make this. It does have a squared off spine, and the signature, there's only one, is 3-hole pamphlet stitched in here. I used some of the offcuts to make the cover, and it is just strips of paper glued in kind of a collage. And of course you could add, some kind of focal or something on here. This is way too heavy for this book, but these are the air dried clay book plates I've been working on. That I will do a video on as soon as they're finished, but I've been recording it as I go and they're not finished yet. Okay, so let's do a little flip through. Here's the cover. Inside has a pocket and it is reinforced at the top. And here we have a belly band made out of, again, just strips of the same paper collaged together to form that belly band. The edges are deckled with a decal ruler. And then I did some inking on the white parts, just so they weren't quite so white. These are one-sided papers. Each page is one-sided paper glued together. Okay, so there's a pocket here, and the pieces that I cut out the pocket, I just flipped them over and glued them there, just for a little, reinforcement for one, but also just for an extra addition. And this is just 2 sheets glued together, and then the white showing. Again, I did some inking there. And yes, this is upside down, but it's a junk journal, so you're gonna cover it with a bunch of stuff anyway. Again, 2 pages glued together. This one, I made a pocket with a little notch. Here's the center of our signature. Made another pocket on the other side of that one with the notch. Just a plain 2-sided page. 2-sided page with a pocket, again with that V. This time, instead of cutting them completely out, I just flipped them over. And 2-sided paper, and then another pocket in the back. Okay, so that's what we're gonna make. And these are the measurements and instructions. So it has been quite a while since I made this, and it's based off of kind of a portfolio thing that Natasha made at Treasure Books a while ago. I will go and find that and link it for you. I made mine a little different. I gave it a spine, and I obviously made it into a journal with the inside signature. So let's get started. Okay, so we need 5 pieces of one-sided paper for this project. So each page, so this is folded in half, so this is like 1 page, right? This is 1 sheet of 12 by 12. It is cut in half and glued together to make the double-sided pages. Okay, so we need 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the cover. And for this cover that we're gonna make, I'm gonna make it double-sided, and then we're gonna do pockets on top of that. Yeah, that'll make it easier for us to not have upside down things and stuff like that. So that's the plan. And also in this book, I had 5 pages of the same paper. And for this one, we're gonna do all the inside pages with these, which is the same one-sided paper. And then we're gonna do the cover out of this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and cut all of these in half at 6 inches. And let me, you guys can't really see the whole thing because I've got too much stuff on my work area. Yes, the technical term is stuff. All right. Okay. So we're just gonna, and oh look, coffee. Yum. Okay. And we're just gonna, I know these are, and yes, 12 by 12s are not always exactly 12 by 12, but that's okay because when we put these together, we can ink around the edges if there's any white peeking out. So I'm just gonna go through and cut these, and I'm hoping to be more regular with posting some videos. I get caught up because I like to do the big complicated projects, and I have some really cool ideas for some journals using the air dry clay, and these are just book plates. So I also have some cool stuff that I'm designing and working on, but then I get caught up in that, and then I don't finish the video for the week. So I have several projects and prototypes made for videos, and I just need to sit down and record them so they don't, first of all, so I don't forget how I made them, because that happens, and then and then also so that I have a video to post, right? Okay, so these are all double-sided, and I just am going to go through and make sure I have them set to both be right side up. Real quickity-doo-dah. There's 2. And you can put, you know, however many inside pages you want, obviously, but one thing to remember is that if you're going to use this as a junk journal, it's going to get fatter, which is why I did the squared off spine. If you're just going to put pages inside that you can write on and it's just a little notebook, then you probably don't have to do the squared off spine, and you could just put your folded signature in there and do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and you wouldn't need this boxed spine. So, and also if you're going to put more pages in there, like it's pretty thin right now, right? It looks like the spine's too big for it at this point. But if you were to put things in the pockets and notes and writing and all that, it's gonna fatten up a little bit. So just some things to keep in mind when you're making yours. And then this, of course, I'm gonna have that journal on the cover. How perfect is that? And then on the inside front cover, we're gonna have this cute little birdie. So I may not put a pocket there, actually, because we don't want to cover him up. We'll see what happens. Okay, so now I want to decide, do I want these completely glued together, or do I want them to have pockets? So obviously when you're gluing the pages together, if you want it to just be a solid double-sided page, you're just going to glue those together. And if you want a pocket, you just want to glue the edges together, right? I do like to glue here where the spine is going to be, just so that when you have the book open, whatever you put in the pocket doesn't like try to go all the way through the book, unless you want it to. So lots of variations and things to keep in mind that you can do here. So generally, because we have 4 inside pages, I'm going to do 2 solid pages and 2 with pockets. That's what I did on the prototype. And then on the solid pages, I have belly bands, or just left it as a page for decoration or what have you. And so we have pocket page, and on the back of that pocket page, it's solid, right? You could do pocket opening on both sides, but that's a little awkward. Solid page, pocket page, pocket page, solid page, pocket page, solid page. So you can just do that however you want. I am going to go through and score these in half. You don't have to score them. You could just fold them in half let's just fold them in half. It's not that big of a deal. You do want to remember that when you fold these, it is going to cause a little bit of white to show. And like I said, we're just going to ink those later. So I'm just going to fold all these in half. And then here's a good point to decide if you want to box the spine or just fold that front cover in half. What you want to consider is that if you're going to box the spine, these inside pages are going to be too long and they're going to stick out of your cover. That's why I did the deckled edge on the inside pages so that I could take off some length. You could always just cut them straight with your paper cutter, cut them curvy, cut them decorative scissors, whatever you want to do. It does not matter. It's your book. Okay, so I did box the spine on this one, so I am going to show you how to do that. This one has a 1/2 inch spine. So what I did was I found the center, and then I marked 1/4 inch on this side and 1/4 inch to the other side, and that's where I scored for the spine. So I'm going to bring my scoreboard back in. And I am going to, you're supposed to flip this thing over, and I guess I'll just do it because I'm showing it to you, but I don't always do that. Sometimes I just put it up against that cutting line and we're fine. Okay, so the middle is going to be 6 inches because this is a 12-inch piece of paper. So we're going to go 1/4 inch to the right. And so that is going to be 6 3/4. And then we're going to go 1/4 inch to the left, which is going to be, oh, I'm reading this backwards. It's going to be 5 3/4 and then 6 1/4. Okay, and that gives us that 1/2 inch spine. You can, especially if you make a mistake and you've got score lines going all over the place, just score on each of the lines. That way it just gives you, you know, it looks like you meant to do that. And you can roll that spine if you want to. You could have a rolled spine instead of a square blocky spine. Okay. Okay, so here's our guy, and I folded it the wrong way because I want that journal on the front. So I'll just fold it the other way. Okay, and there's our spine. Now, what we can do, because we have journal here, we have these, you can leave that. I'm probably gonna, you know, decorate the cover a little bit just because I think that's weird looking. And then on the inside, we have this little birdie. One of the things that I did not do in my book, in my prototype that you could have, is make a pocket at the top of the book. So, because I don't want to cover this birdie, we could do a pocket in this front cover. Here, or even from the side if we wanted to. So there's that, and then all of these pages. So I'm going to decide what I want to do with these, and I'll be right back. Okay, I decided to keep it simple and not get all crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue these pages together. I'm not going to glue into the spine at all, and that is for a couple of reasons. One, it still gives it a little bit of flexibility so that it's not static, and also because when we're stitching the signature in, I don't want that glue on the string and the needle. So I'm just going to open this, and we're going to bring our Barely Art Precision glue in, and I'm just going to run a bead of glue around the edges. And then I'm just going to run some glue in the middle. Okie dokie. And then we're going to match up that spine. And then over, match it up with the corners as best we can, and there's our back cover. Just gonna flip it, open that up, put more glue on this side. Again, I am not gluing in the spine area. Smooth that out, just like that, and there's your cover. Okay, now I do want to tell you that this paper glued together like this, that's pretty sturdy. So if you want a more solid cover, you can of course put, you know, cereal box or chipboard or something between the two layers when you glue them together. You can reinforce the spine that same way. I did not do that, just like I said, because I'm just keeping it simple, and so I didn't do that. I did just notice that my little spine is gapping open right there, so I'm just gonna throw some glue in that bit to seal that at the top and the bottom, so that's not happening. Go like that. All right, there's our cover. We're gonna set that guy aside. All right, now we have our inside pages. Again, we're gonna have 2 with pockets and 2 without. So what I'm going to do is basically glue them together just like we did the cover, but if I want pockets, I'm gonna leave one side open, and if I don't want pockets, I'm gonna glue the whole thing together like we did for the cover. So I'm gonna make 2 of these just glued together, and that's gonna be just like we did on the cover. So I'm just gonna run some glue around the edges, and then on the inside, and then close that up, smooth it out, do the same on the other side. Over. There we go. Set that aside. I'm gonna go do 2 of them like that, completely closed. And this I almost said scratchbook. This scrapbook paper is, you know, it's not flimsy, but it's not like that super thick scrapbook paper that's, you know, light cardstock almost. It's got some sturdiness to it. It's heavier than like regular copy paper, I would say, but it's not much heavier than that. Oop, got a little misaligned on that one. Ruh-roh. See if I can fix that without ruining it. Do the same on this side here. Righty. I need a Scooby snack. All right. And now these ones are going to have pockets. So the question is, do we want top pockets or side pockets? In the prototype, I did side pockets. let's just keep it simple, like I said, and we'll do side pockets. Okay, and to the inside. So on these, we're going to put glue next to the spine and on the top and bottom. Next to the spine, top, bottom. Oops, I said that backwards. Top and bottom, there we go. And you can either notch or cut this beforehand, or you can do it after you glue it together. I'm just gonna cut my notch before I glue it together. Bam. That makes it easier to ink if you're gonna ink it. And then I like to ink this part because that's going to show through where the notch is. Okay. And so then we're just going to line this side back up. And glue that together. Got a little white showing, but again, this is, like I said, when you fold the paper together, it's going to not quite sit flush, so you can always ink any whiteness that's showing there. And this would be part of the decoration. I just thought I'd show it to you while I had the ink right here. And then, you know, you don't see the white poking out. It's not as in your faceable, if that's a word. And it's not. Okay. So then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're just gonna notch. And we're gonna do a little inking. Ink here. Glue. Just gonna put that over that way. And boom! You got 2 pockets. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. That one's not dry yet. That one did gap open a little bit, so we'll just put a little bit more glue there. No problemo. All right, set that aside. We're gonna do the same thing here, so I'm gonna go ahead and notch. And most importantly, I'm gonna drink some coffee. All right. Bring that ink back in, and this is Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. And we're gonna throw some ink on the ends. Ba, ba, ba. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then we're gonna make sure these are the right way. We're gonna slap some glue on this puppy. side. Close it up. And we have our inside pages and our cover. All right, now that is the 5 pages. And the reason I had leftover was because I did not glue the 2 sides together here. And then it looks like I also grabbed some extra pieces of the same paper that I had in my scrap box. But this portfolio, like I said, was from a video from Natasha at Treasure Books. And that is how she just made a little folio and she reinforced the edges, flipped up the bottom part to make a pocket, which is why this is upside down. And so we did a double-sided cover on ours, so we don't have extra of the same paper, not of this kind. Okay, so we can use scraps to do covers and pockets and all of that. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through and ink all of these edges, not these edges, because we're going to have to trim these to fit inside the book. So because we did that 1/2 inch spine, if we put these against the spine of our book, you can see it's got, you know, about 1/4 inch on each side that is sticking out, and we're going to trim that off. So actually, while I'm inking, I want to ink all sides I need to, so let's just go ahead and cut that. So this is 5 3/4. Okay, and so that's going to be about, yeah, so we need to cut these at, I'm going to say 5 5/8, which is just 1/8 inch short of the 5 3/4. And I'm leaving them folded as a page. I'm putting the fold to the 5 5/8 and cutting off from the edges that we glued together. Okay. So I'm going at 5 5/8 and trim that off. I did do deckled edge with my deckled edge ruler on the prototype, and you can certainly do that. It was really hard on my hands, and I've been putting furniture together the last couple of days, so my hands are really hurting, so that's why I'm just going to do a straight edge here. So 5 5/8. Plus, you can see the difference between the 2 edges and decide which one you like. Now, you could keep these little strips for collaging. So I'll just set these aside and we might use them. And 5 5/8. And 5 5/8. All right, so now we have these, and when they're stacked, like they're going to be inside the book, I cut my notches off for the for the pockets. I didn't think it was that. Here they are. That's silly. Okay, so we're gonna go flat, pocket, flat, pocket, yeah, pocket, okay. And so they're gonna sit in here like this. If you wanted to trim those up, you can, obviously, but they are all gonna fit inside there. Okay, so that's where we're at. I'm gonna go through and ink all of the pages. I'm gonna recut my notches on my pockets that that I messed up by cutting the bits off, so I'm gonna have to re-notch these. So I'll do that and do the inking, and I'll be back. Okay, so all of that inking is done. I even did the curves of the spine on the inside and the outside and the cover. You know, I did the insides all around and re-notched my packets, inked those. Okay, so now we are ready to bind. So I'm just going to alternate these pages in our signature, like so, and then we are just gonna bind this bad boy. Now, I will tell you, I've been saying that today. I don't know why, it's annoying me. Okay, I'm just gonna use my bookbind piercing tool, and I have just one of the little plastic bolts in, so I could go and slip it under there. You know, oops, except for I normally use it on this one. So just pop that over there. And I'm gonna want to bind as much in the middle as I can. So I'm gonna butt that up against, there's a little block in that part. And then I need to get my pokey tool. Oh, pokey tool! Hold on. I have located the pokey tool. Okay, so we just want 3 holes, and we don't want it right up against, you know, we don't want it the closest hole to the edge. I'm gonna go 1 in on the bottom, 1 in on the top, and then I'm just gonna pick one somewhere near the middle and do that guy. All right, now we have this, and it went a little off kilter there. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so I'm gonna line up that top hole and make sure this guy's here and that guy's there. I'm gonna try that again. Okay, that's better. Doot, doot, and doot. Okie dokie. And so we have these guys. I'm just gonna try to punch them all at once and see what happens. Got the curve there. It doesn't want to go all the way up, so we're just gonna scooch it down a little bit. About like that. Because that's where those holes will line up. Okay. You know what? That's making me nervous that they're not going to line up. So I'm going to put this cover in here and line up the centers. I'm going to use some clips. These are actually quilter's clips, but I love them for paper projects and stuff like this. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to line up the center and put those clips in place. Do 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 do. Okay, and then I'm gonna punch. Cool. That way we know they're in the right spot. Okay. Easy peasy. All right. So now we have our holes, we have our cover, we just need our thread. This is waxed linen, 1, 2, 3, and a smidge. Pardon my reach. Clip. Okay, grab our needle, thread that bad boy. All right, and off we go. I'm gonna go through the center first, just like that. Pull it through, leave a tail. If you want, you can even clip that. I'm guilty. I have pulled it through and just put a little clippy guy on there, and that'll at least give you enough resistance for you to go, oh, what's wrong? It's cut on something. And then you look at it and go, oh, no, that's the clip I put, so I don't pull it in too far. Right? There we go. And pull that through. Pop, pop. All the way down to the bottom. Through. And then back through the middle where we started. Okay, there is quite a bit of thread left, so you can double stitch that signature if you want to. I'm just gonna save this for another project. Hello, leave it on the needle. My fingers are not working today. Okay, get that out of the way. Then we are going to pull up. Make sure our threads are nice and taut, but not too tight. And tie a little knot-a-roo. And then I like to put the string back through for an S knot. So you put one under on the bottom section, one under on the top section, pull them up, pull them taut, and then tie another knot. And give it a trim-a-roo. Okay, now we have a completed book. And we're gonna, see, I pulled it a little too tight on the binding, so it's kind of being ugly right there. That's okay. We are just doing easy peasy. So I'm just gonna work these pages into the binding like this. And because it's paper and we glued them together and all of that fun business, we do have a little bit of white showing where the thread went through on some of these. And I am going to ink those, okay? So, just gonna bring in my vintage photo again. Gonna put a little bit of ink on the spine. And you'll see that it catches on the rough spots and puts a little extra ink there. And that's fine because we want it to look aged and handmade and all of those good adjectives. So, you know, just catching a little ink there only helps that vintage look, I think. So, just do that and boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop, boopy doo boo. You can even sing that little song if you want, or not. Up to you. I feel like making these is a little bit like the effect of a prayer shawl, because it's like the joy and happiness it brings making these carries on to the next owner. And so I always like to sing and tell happy songs. Just have fun. I put the cover on backwards. This is supposed to be the front cover. This is now our front this is now our front cover. Oh dear. That's okay. Well, now we can put, well, we have this lady. Should we leave her or should we put a pocket? You know, I'm not fond of the vintage people like a lot of other people are, but I guess we'll just leave her. And in the back, we'll put a pocket. We'll leave the birdie there. How about that? Okay. So there you have it. There's your book. Done and done, right? So on this one, like I said, I used just strips of paper to collage a cover. It also makes it pretty sturdy. The paper pack these came in, I have a bunch of offcuts in my scraps, so I could even make a little cover plate with that journal word like I had wanted to put on there. I could just put something on there with maybe ripped brown matting, you know, whatever we want to do. So there's the book. If you just wanted to see how to make the book, that's that. I'm going to go through and add some pockets and make some tags to insert and do a couple more things. So if you want to stick around, please do. If you want to skedaddle, you're welcome to do that too. And if you're one of those that's going to skedaddle on me, I hope you enjoyed making the book. If you're going to stick around, let's decorate this bad boy. So I am actually going to cut out this journal word. Boom. And I'm going to ink that bad boy. You know, guys, I hate inking. I hate it so much. But, you know, I feel like it's naked if I don't. Like, here's my naked paper. You know, I don't know. You guys like inking? I don't like it. I don't like repetitive noises or movements. I just don't. So that's probably where that's coming from. I think I'm gonna tear the edges of this dark brown. I know it was already torn. Just go with it, okay? And I'm just gonna scooch this top bit off. I'm pulling it towards me so we get that effect. You know, if I tore it away from me, it would be clean, and that double-edged look would be on the back only. So I like to pull it towards me, and I'm gonna do it about here for that. And then I'm gonna scooch off this bottom bit as well. Okay, is that too big? Yeah, it's too big for the cover, so let's just take some of that off. Is that gonna fit? I think I'm gonna scooch a little bit more. Scooch! Now it's a little, okay. Now we gotta scooch some of the, and I could have cut it straight, but I was like, you know, we have the book plate torn. Maybe we should tear that too. And now it looks weird straight on the top and bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. It's a little bit harder, as you know, when you don't have a lot of room to work with. I only have a little bit there. So I'm just gonna be careful and do pinch tears, as I call them, where I'm using my fingernail of my other hand to kind of guide where the paper cannot go past. Thou shalt not pass the fingernail, sir. And at the top we have a little bit more to work with, so. But still, you know, you can't tear off that little border thing because, well, I mean, you could, I guess, but it's touching the top of the journal word, so I'm just gonna do that. And then I'm gonna take off a little bit more. This is a little thicker than I want it to be. Thicker than a snicker. Take that off. Ink this bad boy. Or maybe it's a good boy. I don't know. Maybe it's a good girl. Maybe they use they, them pronouns. Whatever it is, we're giving it a nice little inkaroo. Okay, here we are. Here's this. Lovely. Now we're gonna bring in our Barely Art precision glue. Put some glue on the back of this paper. Do. Glue it onto this. A paper. Paper. Do. And we're gonna glue the back of this. Yeah. Right. Ooh, well, let's put it all upside down. And we're just gonna slap that guy right there. There we go. All right, that's part of it. I want to put something here. Not sure what yet. So we're just gonna, I mean, we have this stuff, but it doesn't match. It doesn't match. So get at it. All right. Did we decide we're gonna let the lady stick around? Yeah, we're gonna let the lady stay. Okay. What about like a little corner flip? We could do that. We'll leave it. Okay. Here's one of our pockets, and these pockets need probably what, a 5.5 by 5. 5.5 by 5. Tag. Sorry for the noise. I'm trying to get that thing in it. All right, and for that, we're probably going to need whole pieces of cardstock. So I'm going to get my, let's see, I'm going to get some coordinating cardstock. I'll be right back. Okay, so here are my round cardstocks. I think I don't want to make it too dark because, you know, I might want to write on the back or whatever. So how about this cream color here? And let's just, what did I say? 5 by 5.5. Well, if we do 5 1/4, we can just cut it in half and use that, right? Because it's, well, no, half of 11 is 5.5, so let's just see how that works. I did not mean to put both of them in there at the same time. Okay. That's how accidents happen. Okay. Okay. So that's 5.5. And then let's cut this at 5. All right. And let's make sure that fits before we cut the other one. So we have this. Oop. Perfecto, eh? Okay. So cut the other one. Water. Okay. I don't have enough room over here. Okay, 5.5. And 5. Nope. Okay, so we have our 4 tags. We could decorate these, obviously. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to put them in here. And then whoever is the recipient can do their own decor. Mon ami. Right? Okay. Go. And here. And here. Do. Okay, mister. Alright, so we got 4 tags. And those stick out a little bit. Right? Okay. Now we have these. We can make pockets out of these. Have to trim that quite a bit, but do that. Let's make a couple of those. Right. Should we ink it? Yeah, probably. Should probably ink those big tags too. I don't want to. Because this is a pocket, we're only going to put glue on 3 sides. Just like that. Okay, so do the same for this one. Over here. All right, now we go. 2 pockets. Should we put a pocket here? How about a side pocket? Boop. Should we cut that down a little bit though? Yeah. Should totally use a paper cutter for that. But I did not. Probably ink these. I really feel like we're doing this lady an injustice by not putting anything on that inside cover, but you know, we don't have to put something everywhere, you know, we don't. We could just put like a little plate right here where somebody could put, you know, like their name or the title of the little journal, time frame that it's gonna be created, or, you know, if you're making it for a specific event or memory, we could put that inside. You know, we could do that. We could use, you know, one of our little offcuts here. Put that there. Boo, boo, boo. And just stick this up here. I feel better. You feel better? Anne? Call her Anne. Do you feel better about that, Anne? Okay. And we got 2 pockets. Okay. We have this that needs to be inked. You know, and it's my impulse to put something on every page, but we really don't need to. We don't need to. I do like to, when I sell these, include a little pack of, you know, coordinating papers and ribbon, buttons maybe, little pieces of ephemera, whatever, so that whoever buys it can decorate it how they want. So I try to remind myself, you don't have to put something on every page, because that might not be what the person who owns it eventually wants it to look like. So, and you just never know, right? One person could love what you put in there, and another person could be like, why the heck would you put that there? So, and that was actually my daughter's idea. She said, why don't you let them decorate it themselves? If it was me, she said, I would want to put stuff where I wanted it. And I said, you know, that's a good idea. So, put a little corner pocket here. There we go. And, okay, what are we going to put here? A side pocket. This way. There we go. You know, and if you're making this for yourself, you could do all kinds of cool stuff in there. You could do clip-on pockets, little waterfalls. You could do, you know, just so many things. You don't have to be tied to what I do or what someone else did. You know, you can just do your own thing. And that's why I think it's important to show, look, this is just blank cardstock. I'm just throwing it in here. Like, you can put whatever you want in there. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't even have to match. You know, just because this journal's vintage, old style browns and beiges doesn't mean you can't put something purple in there, you know? Whatever. You do you. Some people like to watch the inking, and some people do not. So that's part of the reason why I inked the pages of the book itself off screen, because some people absolutely hate that, and some people love the sound of it. Like I said earlier, I hate inking. It's not the sound necessarily, which is surprising. It's just the repetitive inking. It's just annoying. Okay, and it's just a blank page. Go ahead and ink this tag real quick. Now, you could also take just plain cardstock like this, just like a cream or a light brown, or, something you could write on, even if it's a dark brown and you have a gold pen, that would look nice on a dark brown, or a white pen. You can just put little writing mats throughout here, right? Like I could glue this on this page and that could be a writing space. I could even hinge it so that you could write on the front and the back. You know, you can do all kinds of stuff with a blank book. There is no rhyme or reason or rules to what you have to put. Okay, there. So you can see we put some stuff in and it's a little fatter than it was in the beginning. And I'm gonna leave it just like this because I wanted to make it simple. I do like to let these dry and then I go through and test it again. Make sure the pockets are all adhered and that the tags come smoothly in and out of the pockets. Nothing got glued into a pocket or anything like that. So I do come through and do a little quality control checking before I say I'm done with it. So there we go. There she is. Let me know what you think. I've got more one-sided paper projects coming up because I have a lot of one-sided paper, and so I've been coming up with some projects to do. So this is one of them, and stay tuned for more. Bye.